making a 5-wave move does, have reason to think about getting to a 61. We want to think about that in the future. We want to understand that 5-wave moves not only have the capacity to make 5-wave moves in reverse, but also have the opportunity to make 61s. Now, with that being said, who's to say that this 5-wave move isn't going to also make a 61% retracement back up to its 61 when we're done with it? And I'm like, after we're done with all this crap, we're just going to go through all-time high. That's the reality of it. I see it that way. How long do we need to linger on the cusp of all-time high, or whatever you want to call it? One thing it has done is identify that that is an incredibly clear trend, and it will be the most important one, I find, out of all of them. Whatever support line breaks is merely insignificant part of the downtrend break in the bigger picture. Like, are people standing in the way of it breaking? Well, if not, then we'll break it. If they are standing in the way, then we'll deal with them, then break it. Those are the options. But breaking it is on the table either way. And I'm like, oh, okay. Opposite man message of the day. That's the way I see that. I'm not going to fight it. I'm just going to understand that it's pretty strict to do nothing. It's better than to fight against it. If you're going to do anything, then go with it. That's what I'd say. I know that line will break, and positioning for it, sure, it might be difficult, but if you're holding, it's nothing. Just hold through it. Patience is key, like I said. It avoids all of the dangers and risks that people wish they didn't get involved with today. Yet it exposes you to everything that everyone sees as the great part. And that's the uptrend. Everybody, when they look at this chart, they don't look at all the difficulty people are having trying to buy this 5-wave move. They look at how easy it's been for the long traders that have held from the bottom. And I don't care if it's difficult on breaking this red-yellow line first, or if we need to attack the red zone 3 or 4 more times, because in getting back to the red zone, it can look like a crappy time in breaking that trend. Now, when we get to this time, there's nothing that's preventing us from hitting the red zone and making it seem like that trend break is clean. But this area here, they might be a little tricky about it. Also, if it wants to make a 3 drives pattern before reversing, kind of is appropriate. Just kind of. It's only after all, it's only the highest 5-wave move in the history of time. Should it be smooth for them? Because they're ones that are trying to get it easy. They're clearly not holding from a price that's actually respectable. Why should we make it easy for them? Not a single hedge fund in the world has a hedge higher than there. Not a single person in the world has a hedge or a short trade higher than there. So everybody's got to be long or they're losers at that point. That's profound. I'm like, wow, really? Yeah, there's no other way to see it, or it's wrong. It's not a huge movement in comparison to what we've come from. It makes me think about the last time that we did make a pullback. What about this move? What are the odds that this move isn't ironically the same size as what we're doing right now? Is there a chance that that's the case? Like, what the heck is that about? It's the same freaking size. Not interesting. No? That's very interesting to me. In my opinion, like, what the heck is that? This distance that I just made right here, that is the same distance as what we did before. And look at it respond to it like that. Now, obviously, everything has been bought back up to where the POC is and the 61. This is exactly where that triangle's tip was that we, quote-unquote, didn't get back to before. Now, this one's an interesting one because we did get back to it already. But did we get back to it enough is another question. Ultimately, I do believe we will get back to it. The red-yellow line is breaking after much difficulty, but breaking from the 61 and the red zone. It's not making moves off the red zone that's the problem. It's whether or not they stick. Because every time that we get above the red zone, we can quote-unquote smash it from above, right? And I mean, in order to be able to smash the red zone from above, we have to get on top of it, and that's not the problem. The fact of the matter is falling back to the red zone is the thing that gets people. So you got to be careful. So what that's going to look like, if we ever come back to the red zone from any place in the future, it's going to look like coming back to the point that the trend broke. that's a problem too. You know, being in from past where the trend breaks is not as favorable as being in for the trend break. You know what I mean? So very, very important. At the end of the day, these are all broken trends, and there's B points that are down here that could easily be tested to make sure that you know, you're not dragging any stops above those levels on the short term. And if you did get any exposure to the 61, that it's made safe. Due to the fact that the most hostile thing has been this freaking red yellow line in this entire process. Now, being at the fact that it's close to the 61 and at the bottom of the node, it stands a better chance to get into it so that it can use the node if it wants to. Get back to the POC and get back to the centralized area, but that'll involve doing more than the average counter trend move. Now, it is true that what we did here was 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then made an extra drive, which was the third drive, and it came back to the first of the 3, which if dragged over here, you can see exactly how that works, where we've managed to make 3 consecutive lows, at the end, and we came back to the first of the 3. But the first movement that we did was a 5-wave move, and it ended with 3 consecutive lows instead of, you know, the usual. And like even the lows today, we can see prior to this pullback, the trend managed to break successfully off of distinctly 3 lows. And I can see too that it makes 2 tight ones and then 1 far away one. So we can see that over here too. It's almost like the same thing. You know what I mean? Absolutely incredible. See that that's the case over there. You know, it's almost like this is exactly the same freaking stuff. You know what I mean? So what could the capacity of producing 3 lows like this, 1, 2, 3, could it have this kind of ramification? That would be all-time high. Not necessarily would I suspect that it could produce the same sort of movement in the exact same amount of time and space, but it certainly is possible. Like, is it at least perhaps not capable of doing all of that, but is it at least capable of breaking this trend? You know, because what that was capable of before was to end this entire consolidation and take everything that it was doing in that consolidation and double it beyond, you know, maybe a little bit more as well. And then if I take this and we move it over like this, and we take this area down here, you know, what did we do with that? We doubled it down. Could we be done? Oh yeah, we could be done. That's another reason for it to be done, because it's completed that precise movement. It's just, you know, I respect the precision. You might find that you're relating to other things as well because of that. So I like to think about it as much as possible. But yeah, we've made it through the trend now, and we're back at that red zone high, which is the low of the node, which in my opinion, if people that are just looking at the chart from today's information, they have no idea that buying at the low of this node is buying at the high of the red zone of another range. And if we treat this level like it's a red zone, then I was going to say it's doomed to smash it from above. You know, to be brutally honest, that's what came to mind. I was going to say it's doomed to smash it from above. If we make that movement, would it be this movement here? You know, could that be the movement that separates this pattern? That's the pattern that we saw over here. In the event that it made this movement right here, right now, that would get us to the 61. That's what it did before. You know, it makes me wonder whether or not that high is going to have the same kind of impact as this one. You know, because not many people are going to have that trend drawn, but it is the angle that made the difference before. And I can tell you that, you know, pulling back that much off of the high using this method is incredibly similar to the reality that we have right now. Is it not true that the high that encompasses this entire area comes from the yellow line and ends at the blue, and so does this? It's true that it decides to make this the case, so am I going to accept it or neglect it? You know, is the question.